Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in as Overtime Promotions proudly presents an association with the Farzy Show, a live virtual signing as well as question and answer, a Q&A with Phillies legend Larry Bowa. Larry, I got it. Before we get into the Q&A, before we get into the autograph signing and exactly how we're going to do it, I know you're probably sick of hearing your accolades. 1980 World Series champion, 5-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glover, a 522 winning percentage as a manager and manager of the year with the Philadelphia Phillies. Larry, does it ever get old just hearing all the great stuff you've done?
It's good that you bring that stuff up. I mean, I feel that I look back at my career as a player, coach, manager, and I've been very lucky. And I got to thank the man upstairs for letting me be part of the Philly organization for such a long time. But the one thing that stands out, obviously, Marc, is the first ever in Philly history World Series in '80. That's something that's etched in my mind. The parade, you can take away everything, but that World Series is something very special, and it's amazing. I look back at some of the professional players that were great players. I mean, Hall of Fame players that never got to play in a World Series, and I really take my hat off. I mean, I feel sorry for those people because they have no idea the magnitude of a World Series. It was the greatest feeling in the world, playing in that in front of so many people, and of course making the city of Philadelphia very happy.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you right now, Larry, I grew up with stories of the 1980 teams. I grew up with stories of the 1970 teams. And one of the guys that my father was always sure to highlight was you, sir. So I've followed your career as a player, as a manager, as a front office member, just about everything for this Philadelphia Phillies baseball team. So I appreciate the work. And we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff. The years past with the Phillies, we're going to get into right now, literally right now with the Phillies, as they're actually in a scoreless tie in the bottom of the second inning in Milwaukee after pounding the Brewers yesterday. We got baseballs for you to sign. We got about 24 baseballs. And if people want an autograph from Larry Bowa, here's how we're doing it with Overtime Promotions. And the president of Overtime Promotions, Bobby Capone, you can PayPal him, you can Venmo him. That's how you do it right there. You can see at the bottom of the screen, the scroll going across, $25 for simply just an autographed baseball. It's $30 for an autographed baseball with a special message. Larry, you've done plenty of these before. When you personalize it, you'll have that opportunity. People can personalize it there for them.
That sounds great, Marc. I'm ready to go. And, I look back at that 80 team and the 08 team, that won. I think the one common denominator is they had a core group of guys, both teams. They came up through our farm system. And I think I can't express how important the farm system is. And hopefully we can get ours back to where it should be, because you can't keep writing checks out every year. I know John Middleton, tremendous owner, but we need to start reaping some dividends from our system, because I really believe we have some good athletes down there. Just a matter of maturing a little bit and them going through A, AA, and AAA. But it's not as bare, Marc, as people say it is, because I've been out there. We have some good-looking young players. It's just a matter of them, finding their niche. And of course, confidence is big. Missing last year didn't help with the COVID. They got to pick it up this year, and hopefully it'll continue, and we can continue to play baseball in the minor leagues.
Larry, I want to start this off on a great note here. Kyle's hitting us up here, just right out of the gate, saying that he was able to meet you on more than one occasion. You're such a nice person, as you are on any show that you do. You're very down to earth, and Kyle just wants to say thank you for that. So now I'll let you respond to that first, Larry, and then I'll let people know again how they could chime in on the show.
Well, thank you, Kyle. I really appreciate that. My parents, before they passed, when I was growing up, they always said, treat other people like you want to be treated. And I try to do that. There's times, obviously, where things don't go right. I remember a lot of games at the vet where you stay after for an hour and sign autographs on by the time you get home, it's 12:30. And if you miss one or two guys, those people would always write to the Phillies and say, boy, he was really rude. So I try to accommodate most of the people. And sometimes it's tough, but the fan base, for the most part, is tremendous here in Philadelphia. All sports, hockey, basketball, football, baseball. It's a great fan base.
I certainly would agree with that. We have Birdman 951 checking in as well, just saying, "What's up, fellas?" As simple as that. He's following on the Farzy Show YouTube page, so he's just saying hello. Again, if people want an autograph from you, it's very simple. Once again, you see it at the bottom of the screen there: $25 for an autograph baseball, $30 for an autograph with a personalized message, and people can follow along on the Farzy Show Facebook page as well as my personal Twitter page. Overtime Promotions is also sharing this on their Facebook page, and it's on my personal and show Facebook page as well. Simply hit us up in the comment section, say, "Yo, I want an autograph." We'll give you the Venmo information and the PayPal information again. And once the president and CEO of Overtime Promotions, Bobby Capone, lets us know that we're in the clear, we'll sign it right here. And you got the balls. You got the balls right there with you, Larry?
I got it right here. I got 2 dozen here and ready to rock and roll.
All right, there we go. The merchandise is right there. So I want to ask you this, Larry, because I'm obviously not going to ask you the question of, "Hey, Larry, do you think the Phillies will make the playoffs?" Because I very much doubt I'm going to get, "Yeah, Mark, I don't see it happening this year. We just don't have it." But what is it going to take? A game and a half out of first place going into tonight with Aaron Nola on the hill, still a scoreless game. What's it going to take for this Phillies team, for this core group of players and this manager to be able to make it into the postseason for the first time in 10 years?
I think the biggest thing, Mark, and I know it might sound repetitious and everything. We have to play consistent baseball, and nothing against Miami. We have a problem with them every time we go down there. We lost 2 out of 3, but as you said, starting the show, we rocked Milwaukee last night. We hit a lot of home runs. Milwaukee, one of the better teams in the National League. So it's going to be a matter of consistency. I think our starting pitching, the 4 guys right now, are set up pretty good. Wheeler threw a gem last night. We hope Nola throws one. Suarez has been a blessing in disguise, and Gibson has really, really been fantastic for us. If Eflin could get healthy, that's pretty 5 men, pretty deep. And you go through all of baseball right now, for the depth of it, if we could have 5 like that, we'd be in pretty good shape right now. But I think consistency. We got to continue to pitch, and of course, we're not going to do what we did yesterday with all the home runs, but we are very capable of scoring 5-6 runs a game with that offense right now.
What do you do as a manager? Can you do anything as a manager, as a player, to try to get that consistency? Because going back to when you played, going back to when you managed, there was always these spells. It's just the ebbs and flows of the game, obviously. Is there anything you can do to try to pull yourself out of a slump to gain more consistency at the plate?
You know what, Mark? I think you can during the course of the season, but when you get down to the final 25, 28 games, those guys don't need more. They see everything right in front of them. It's basically in their hands right now. The only way we can avoid the playoffs is if we go into some kind of slump. And these guys, the adrenaline's flowing as soon as they go into the clubhouse right now. They know what's at stake. They're scoreboard watching. They might tell you they're not. They used to ask me that question in '80 because they went down to the wire. Are you watching? No, I'm not watching it. Of course I'm watching it. And most scoreboards are right in front of you, so they know what Atlanta's doing. They know what the wild cards are doing. It's a matter of them coming to the park, being mentally and physically ready to go. And I really don't see us having a problem. And again, I don't think there's easy teams, Mark. When you have a big league uniform, you have to respect everybody. I know the schedule coming up favors us as far as playing teams that are under 500. We got Colorado, who's unbelievable at home, and they go on the road. They might have the worst record in baseball. The Cubs, they've been playing better, so you can't take them lightly. Pittsburgh gave us problems in Pittsburgh. So we got to attack these teams like we're playing the Milwaukee Brewers. We're playing the Dodgers. You got to have that mindset that on any given night, if a pitcher's on the other team, they can shut you down. So the concentration level goes up a little bit right now when you're down to the last 25, 26 ball games left.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure. You started out by talking about what you've been doing for the Phillies in the front office, especially when they're on the road, for instance. When they're on the road, you're with the minor league system?
What I do, Mark, is I'll pick and choose. I went down to Clearwater, Florida, and watched 6 games. I go to Lehigh Valley. I've been there 3 times. I've been to Reading. I've been to Lakewood. So I try to hit every classification. And, when I get back, Dave Dombrowski will say, "What'd you see? What do you like? What do you think we need to work on?" And basically he gets my opinion. And then what he does is he gets, like Charlie and I go out, and he'll get Charlie's opinion. And then he puts everything together. He talks to our scouts. So at the end of the year, Dave's got a very good game plan. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's got a little old school. He's got a little the analytic part of it going on. But the bottom line is he makes the final call, him and Sam Fold. So that's good that he listens to both sides, the young guys, the older guys, but he makes the final decisions. And I think he's done a great job so far. And hopefully we can continue this little splurge here at the end going down the stretch.
Certainly. I want to examine the minor league system just a little bit more, but I believe we're about to make a sale here. We're going to start moving units. All right.
All right.
Here we go. All right. Kyle, I'll flash this up for you one more time here. I will make sure that this goes through to our friend Bobby Capone. Here's the PayPal. There's the Venmo as well. Take your pick. Capone, 1027 at Comcast.net on PayPal or on Venmo, simply at Bobby-Capone. You send that to him. He lets me know that we're up and running, and then we'll clear you and get that signed for you, Kyle. I appreciate you checking out Larry Bowa, his autograph signing, as well as the Q&A that he's doing tonight regarding your Philadelphia Phillies and his career in the city of Philadelphia as well. Larry, while we're talking about the minor league system here, you said the cover is not as bare as some people might point out. Is there anyone that has really jumped out to you in the Phillies minor league system?
Well, Bryson Stott has really stood out. He started off, I'll be honest with you, in April, I went down to and watched him at Lakewood. And when I watched the 5 or 6 games, the first thing Dave asked me, he said, what do you got on Stott? And I went, I gave him a little, all right, a little this, a little that. And then I've gone to see him 2 or 3 times. And since he's been promoted to AA, he's really impressed me. This kid, he's got it all. He was a number 1 pick, obviously, from where Harp's from, Vegas, but he can hit. I think the biggest question, I should say, was does he have enough range to play short? I really believe he does. I definitely know he has enough arm, but he's going to be a big plus in that batting in the lineup because he can hit balls out to left center. He's a left-handed hitter. He's about an average runner, but he's very good instincts on the bases. I think this kid's going to be something special. He's already went from Lakewood to Reading. He's made that adjustment, and hopefully he finishes strong. I know he was close to 300 the last time I looked. So he's one of the guys. There's also an infielder down in Clearwater named Garcia that I like a lot. He's a switch hitter. A center fielder named Rojas. Like I said, we have some players down there. Our number 1 pick in Clearwater last year, the pitcher has had some arm problems. I'm trying to think of his name. It evades me right now. But he's got great velocity. So we have 3 or 4 guys that have been high picks. But I look at those guys that are middle of the road guys and watch them progress. I still like Mickey Moniak. I like Maton. I think those guys are really starting to mature a little bit. They got a little bit as far as getting confidence and everything because they were up and down because of injuries here. And Mark, if you're going up and then you go back down and you go back up and it's because of injuries and COVID, they weren't really able to get 4 at-bats every single night in AAA. They come up here and they play for a while, then they sit on the bench for a while because Joe would make out the lineups. So I'm not saying it hindered them, but it because of our situation in Philly, we had to keep going back and forth like that. But I like those 2 kids. I think they're going to be good baseball players. People give up on Moniak, Mark, because, if you look at his age, he's 2 years younger than everybody. When I went watching in Clearwater, I looked at the average age over there at the time he was there. It was 23, 24. He was 21 playing there. I went to Reading, the same thing, 2 years younger. I went to AAA, 2 years younger. He's getting bigger. He's getting stronger. I like him. I know people are down on him. Oh, he's a 1-1. He should have been in the big leagues. It doesn't work that easy, but I really believe this kid's going to be an everyday player in the big leagues.
I hope so. I've had the opportunity to interview him on a couple of occasions, and I'll just say this. He's an easy guy to root for. He's an absolutely an easy guy to root for. You mentioned working with Charlie in the minor league system, doing some scouting and all that stuff for the Phillies front office, but that's not all. You're also working with Charlie Manuel and down the line with Chuck and Bo, with Charlie and Bo. I asked Charlie this question when he was on my show a couple of weeks ago. Did you ever think, Larry, that you would have TV hosts next to your name?
No, I didn't, but we have a good time with that. Charlie and I, Charlie's personality, he's from West Virginia, and I'm from California. So everyone's saying, how do those 2 guys get along? We get along great. We love baseball. We talk baseball. Every time we're together, we talk baseball 24/7, and we go to games together when we go down the minor leagues. In fact, he'll be coming up when we get off this road trip. So we'll be together watching us go down the stretch here. But we have a great time with that. And the response has been very favorable for us.
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to my friend Sam Wilson, who does the show with you guys as well. She does a great job.
She does a great job.
Yeah, that's awesome. Oh, we have another person checking in here. There we go. Eric checking in. Larry, my mom, Dawn, grew up watching you and following your career. Tells me all the time you're a hell of a player and a hell of a mentor. So look at that. See, you just reach across all generations, Larry. That's what you do.
I do, because a lot of times now that when I go out to autograph signings or appearances, the first thing they say, "Oh, my grandmother loved watching you play." But I've been very fortunate, Mark. I as a coach and a manager, I got to work with Jimmy and Chase, and then when I was with the Yankees coaching for Joe Torre, I got to work with Jeet and Alex and Clemens. I mean, I've been really, really lucky to do all that stuff. And again, I thank the man upstairs for that. But I've also had some great players to work with. People think, "Oh, you helped that guy." You know what? All the guys that I've sort of tutored a little bit, they probably really didn't need a lot of help, but you're there to, fine tune them a little bit. But it's been a blast. Believe me, it's been a blast.
All right, we have our first sale. It just went through. Kyle just paid, and I believe he is getting the full-on autograph with the special inscription, if I'm not mistaken. So the first one we're going to move tonight is for our friend Kyle, and I just hit the wrong one, so everyone knows he just used PayPal. But there you go. It goes out to Kyle Kairos right there. So then there we are. He's taking Venmo.
Just make it out to Kyle and
make it out to Kyle. I'm sure he'd love that. Absolutely, Larry. However you'd like to do it. And then, of course, Overtime Promotions will be getting these and then sending them out to all the great people that are going to be filling these out and putting the requests in. Now, can I ask how you signed that, Larry?
I signed it to Kyle. Best wishes, Larry Bowa.
There you go. Just like that. I have to ask you about this because it's one of the most random things. I surprised your former player, Doug Glanville. One time I interviewed him, and Doug Glanville, this is what I said to him that just totally blew him away. The 2001 Phillies team is probably my favorite. How obscure is this, Larry? It's probably my favorite baseball team or favorite team in general that did not make the postseason. I loved that 2001 team. One of the main reasons, other than you guys just missed the playoffs, you guys had a great year, but just missed the playoffs, was the first time in a long time I remember going to school. I was in college at the time, and I was going to Temple University. It was the first time in a long time I remember going to school and being able to talk baseball again. And people were watching the pennant race. How many games up in the Braves? Are the Phillies on their heels? Oh, right. Like Johnny Estrada, who's this guy hitting home runs for him and all that stuff. Like right. I look back with such fondness on that season. And obviously 9/11 is 20th anniversary is coming up. But just in terms of baseball for right now, when you look back on that season, what jumps to mind about that 2001 Phillies team?
Well, the one thing that stands out in mind, when I got hired, Mark, Ed Wade told me, he says, you have to change the culture down there. And it had nothing to do with Terry Francona. He turned out to be a Hall of Fame. But they were used to losing, and they lost close to 100 games 2 or 3 years in a row. And he says, you got to get these guys to start believing a little bit. And when we had spring training, the first thing I said is, hey, this city – they have a great fan base. They need better than what we've been doing. And I kept harping that. And I was a little tough on them at first. There's no question in my mind I was tough on them. But these guys gave everything they had. And, people ask me, well, you were manager of the year in 2001. You get manager of the year. But the reason you get manager of the year because players responded. And like Doug Glanville was one of those guys that was been around for a while. And he brought that energy every single night to the ballpark. Levy was one of those guys that brought energy every single night to the ballpark. So it was a bunch of guys that really started to believe in themselves. And we were in this thing all the way to the end. And, of course, 9/11, then we had to shut it down for a while, and we came back. And we were in it till the last week. But the thing that I liked about that whole scenario was it was a team that was used to losing 95-plus ball games, and we ended up playing over 500, which was very gratifying, not only to me, but the players and the city of Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's a question that I think we could ask way too many times in the history of Philadelphia sports. But how do you change a losing culture, Larry? How do you instill a different mindset into a clubhouse, locker room, dressing room, whatever it might be?
I think it starts with preparation. You don't just come here, take your grounders, and play. You got to know who's pitching against. You got to know what he features. You got to know who can throw in the outfield. It's taking care of details. And I don't believe though that group of guys took care of details the way they should have. Who you can go first to third on, who's got a good pickoff move, who's slow to home plate. Those we know they can all play, or they wouldn't have a big league uniform. But it's those little intangibles that you try to bring out. Hey, we can steal this guy. We can steal him. I don't care if you're not a fast guy. He's 1-8 to home plate. We can steal this base. We can put a hit and run on because I believe that you can put the ball in play and hit the ball the other way. So they're all little things, Mark, that people don't really understand how detailed, and especially now with the analytics, there's so much details now that if you do your homework, you got an idea what guys throw when the count's 2-0, when it's 3-1, what to look for in certain situations. They have so much information out there right now that it's unbelievable. And if you apply yourself, you can be very successful in this game.
Would you have wanted all that information either when you were playing or when you were managing, or do you think it would almost been too much information overload for players or managers?
For me, I think there is a case to be made that there might be too much information. Guys get up there and they go, oh, I remember it said 85% when the count's 2-0, he's going to throw me a slider, and he throws a fastball down the middle. And now me being not in uniform, or fans that I've been watching games, how can you take that pitch? Well, I said, maybe the analytics said at 2-0, 85%, the odds are in your favor. You're going to get a slider here. So sometimes I think that can get too much in your brain there, and especially in a good hitter's count. Well, I was always told I was a singles hitter. There's no question. I wasn't Schmitty or Bull or Hart. I was one of those guys, hey, get on base for the big guys, and I never got off the fastball. These big guys, they sit on pitches. Hart will sit on a breaking ball. Mike Schmidt used to sit on breaking balls. Greg Lazinski, those guys that hit home runs, they know the situation, and they know the percentages of them getting a breaking ball in that situation. And most of the time, they're pretty successful. You're watching Hart go down the stretch here. Man, he's been crushing it. And again, that's part of preparation. It's just you don't put your uniform on and go in the batter's box and say, okay, I'm ready to hit. You got to do all that stuff. You get there at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and you go over all the data that they give you. And then once you get in the batter's box, obviously it's you against the pitcher. But sometimes if you get a young kid, especially down in low A, that might be too much info for them right out of the gate. I think as you progress through the system, Mark, you get to double A, you get a little more sophisticated. You get to triple A, you get a little bit more detailed and sophisticated. Then obviously to the big leagues, they have all the info that you need.
Certainly. I wanted to ask you to talk about, and real quick, I want to make sure people know exactly what we're doing with the Q&A. We are also giving away autographs here for people to purchase. You can buy an autograph from Larry Bowa. $25 for a just a signature, $30 for a signature, as well as a special message, a personalized message from Larry Bowa. And you can do that by simply Venmoing. Well, first, tell us in the comments section that you'd like one. Then you Venmo Capone 1027 at Comcast.net from Overtime Promotions, who's putting all this on in association with the Farnsey Show, as well as Venmo. You can Venmo at Bobby Capone as well, and that's how you can get in on the action right now. And if you have a question, feel free to write us in your question. I'll put it up there, and people can ask that question as well. For instance, right now, I just saw in our comments some friends just Julian, just Bowa, just like that. That's all you need. That's a comment. So he's excited that you're doing this tonight there, Larry. And also, some friends of mine, as a matter of fact, from Lombardi Meats, some great people there to take care of you down Packer Ave in South Philadelphia. Great show. They're enjoying the conversation. And I agree with this. Intensity unmatched, Larry. And one of the things I was thinking about was just the art of arguing with umpires. It's just not there anymore. And no one did it with your charm and gusto, my friend.
You know what? I think that's the part of the game I do miss, Mark. When a manager goes out and sticks up for his players. I mean, you can't even argue a close call because he goes to New York and they look at the screen. So even if the umpire did miss it, the people in New York overrule it, or they say, hey, the call stands. So you can't even do that. The only thing you can do now, you can argue balls and strikes, but you're automatically ejected if you come out and argue balls and strikes. But people ask about my intensity in that. My dad always told me, when you put on a baseball uniform, pretend like it's the last game you're ever going to play 9 innings, play 27 outs, play as hard as you can, no matter if you're up 10, down 10, scores tied. I tried to bring that every time I put the uniform on. And to this day, when I go to card signings or shows, people say the one thing I liked about your intensity and the way you play the game. That's a compliment to me because I know I got the most out of my ability. I was a kid that never played high school, never got drafted. And to get over 2,000 hits in the big leagues, I look back at that, and it was just through a lot of hard work, great coaching. We had some great hitting instructors in Philadelphia. I was lucky to play with, in my opinion, there's really three Hall of Famers. You got Schmitty, you got Lefty, and I know Pete, what he did was wrong, but if you look at his numbers, those are Hall of Fame numbers.
Sure.
I was very fortunate to play with teams that were good baseball teams, especially from 75 on. And it was great to play alongside those guys. And when you play against guys that are Hall of Fame players, it elevates your game so much every single night because you're trying to match what they do. Obviously, you don't because they're Hall of Famers, but you give that intensity every time you put the uniform on, and that's what I tried to do.
Larry, one of the things I'll never forget is watching that team in 2001 and all the fun I'm having just being a baseball fan that year. I want to say it was my freshman year in college, and all of a sudden it stopped, and it stopped for the worst imaginable reason. The United States was attacked, and we saw what happened in New York, what happened at the Pentagon, what happened in Pennsylvania as well. And baseball wasn't there to comfort us until the great Harry Callis came back on the air at then Comcast Sportsnet and welcomed us back. And the video Dan Stevenson put together one of the greatest tributes to the country I've ever seen. And there's the shot on the baseline while the fans and everyone's standing and yourself and the team are standing for the national anthem and the presentation as well. And there is one of the toughest players I've ever seen, Larry Bowa, shedding a tear, as many of us were shedding a tear. Not just that season, but that particular night when you guys brought baseball back to America. What do you remember from that night, and what are your biggest takeaways?
That was probably the most emotional game that I've ever been a part of. The fact that we came together as a nation, and no one's ever going to forget what happened. But the fact we started a healing process. And that game, Mark, as avid as the Philly fans are, that night we were playing the Braves. It was a big game. No one rooted for, and they cheered everything. Whether Chipper Jones or whoever was playing for Atlanta made a play, whether our guy made a play, there was no booing. It was something that I look back on, and the game, it was different. I had a whole different feeling. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wanted to win. They wanted to win, but that was secondary. The fact that you saw so many people come together after this tragic, horrendous thing that happened to our country. And that was probably as emotional as I've ever been in a Philly uniform. And I'm supposed to go back the 11th. We have a home game. And to look back on that, that's something that I will never, ever forget. And I was just glad to see, like I said, you don't ever forget, but to see the country start to come back a little bit, even though it was just for 2 or 3 hours, that's something that stands out in my mind.
I remember people talking about what happened when Kennedy was shot. I remember things happening with the NFL playing, and I remember people telling me from that generation that it just didn't feel right, like we shouldn't be here. It could not have been better. It could not be better timed by Major League Baseball, by the Phillies, by everyone involved to bring baseball back at that time. That's all I remember. That was kind of the warm hug. Baseball was the warm hug that I think a lot of us needed after all the tragedy that we went through as a country.
Yeah, and that did happen while we were in Atlanta. We were going to play the Braves. Obviously, everything got stopped. And then I remember they canceled the games of the Braves. Then we were going to Cincinnati, so we had no plane. We had to ride a bus to Cincinnati. Once we got to Cincinnati, those games were completely banged, so there was no series there. And then we had to get back to Philly, and I don't know how he did it, Frank Koppenbacher, our traveling secretary, got an airplane for us. We flew back to Philadelphia, and then we played the Braves on the next night. And but the process, the way it happened, and MLB, you got to take your hat off to them. They knew when to do it. You couldn't do it. We missed 3 games, so let's start up. It wasn't right. It wasn't the time. Their timing was impeccable, and it's like I said, it started the healing process. And no one will ever forget the people that lost relatives, moms, dads, grandmothers, grandfathers. Those are etched in my mind. That scene is etched in my mind forever. And again, hopefully that will never, ever happen again to this great country.
Absolutely. From a baseball perspective, I've heard this story. I don't know if it's true or not. Maybe you can confirm it or deny it, whatever it might be. Scott Rowland goes out that night, hits 2 home runs. Is it true, Larry Bowa, that you talked him into doing a curtain call that night?
Yeah, Scotty's to me, he's a Hall of Fame player, and he never ever did that stuff. And it could have happened in April, it could have happened in July. He would have never. He didn't believe. He thought you were showing the other team up. And I just went down and I said, Scotty, this is a special night. And he looked at me and he went, "You're right." And they did. They gave him standing ovation, and he tipped his hat. Scotty was people. They had the perception that him and I didn't get along. I loved putting his name in the lineup. I loved having him bat in the middle of the lineup. But he was one of those guys that played the game the right way, and he didn't want to show the other team up. But that night was a special night, and for him to do what he did, and he went out and tipped his cap, and that was something special, also.
See, I always liked Scott Rowland, and I was always the only one of my circle of friends that tried to defend Scott Rowland. I hate this term Philly guy, but I thought the same thing you did. The guy played hard when he played. The guy was a phenomenal third baseman. I think absolutely a Hall of Fame quality third baseman. Numbers there to go along with it. Why do you think that there was a disconnect between the two parties, Scott Rowland and the Philadelphia fan base?
I really think that Scotty wasn't really an outgoing guy. He sort of reminded me of Schmitty. Mike the fans didn't take to Mike right away. If you think about his career, this guy was a great player. He got booed a lot. And his attitude, he wanted to win as bad as I did, Mike Schmidt. And I know Scott Rowland did too. But Mike was he hid his emotions all the time. You very seldom saw Scott show his emotions. He played the game hard. He played with reckless abandon. I remember one game, I think it was Nomo. We were playing, and he got hit. And he had been hit by Nomo a lot. And I remember after the game that he went down to the locker room and told the visiting clubhouse guy to tell him if he ever hits him again, there's going to be a problem on the mound. But that is so Scott. I mean, he was that intense, but they didn't read him the right way. This is my opinion. Just like they didn't read Schmitty the right way. When those guys are great athletes like those two, they make things look so easy. So if their uniform's not dirty or if they're not sliding head first, people, they're not trying. Those guys, both of them, they wanted to win as bad as anybody I've ever been around, but they sort of mask their feelings during the course of a baseball game.
I don't know how you could play on the vet turf, even the one that they revamped when you guys were playing, when you were managing the team. Anyone who plays on that turf, I think, deserves some sort of award. Larry, guess what? We just sold another one here. Okay. This goes out to Janet Casey. Hello, Janet. All right. This is for her nephew Aiden, and I can go ahead and vouch that she's good. I can go ahead and vouch. I will say that. And this is for her nephew Aiden. Aiden, if you can see it right there. And this is a personalized autograph that she's putting one through right there.
All right. All right.
Congratulations, Janet. Getting a Larry Bowa autograph. For anyone else that has a question or simply wants an autograph, it's very easy to do so. Just let us know that you want one. Step 1. Step 2, let us know when you have Venmo'd the president, if you will, of Overtime Promotions, who's putting this on tonight. PayPal or Venmo, PayPal Capone 1027 at Comcast.net or Venmo at Bobby-Capone. Right there, and you could get in on all the fine action right there. It's just that simple. By the way, Phillies right now, bottom of the third inning in Milwaukee. It's still scoreless as of right now, though it does look like the Brewers are threatening a little bit. I want to ask you this, Larry, because you are one of those people that's a poster child for a Philly athlete. You said it yourself. You wanted to win as much as anybody. You were willing to do anything it took to win. That was your intensity, and that matched the crowd here in Philadelphia. When you say or think about a Philly athlete, or you're eyeing up a prospect for the Phillies in the organization, or you're eyeing up somebody that might be acquired by the Phillies down the line, what makes up an athlete in Philadelphia that you think fits this fan base as an easy one to root for?
That's a great question, Marc. I really believe mental toughness in this city is very important. And when I say that, when you go 0 for 12 or 0 for 16, which is it's going to happen when you play in the big leagues, you're going to have ups and downs, but it's how you handle those ups and downs. Do you sit in the corner and feel sorry for yourself? Do you come out fighting? This is a blue collar city. They want to see you fight, no matter how bad things are going. This game's very easy to play. When you're getting 2 for 3 every night, 3 for 4, you're making all the plays. If you're a pitcher, you go 8 innings at every start. This is easy to play. I like to watch kids in the minor leagues when they're 0 for 16. I want to see if they're still leaders out there. I want to see if they're still playing hard. And when I went to some college games, when I saw Bohm, me and Charlie went and watched him, I wanted to watch him when things weren't going well. I don't like watching guys when they're going good because you know what? They're not going to be down. They're going to give you everything all the time. It's when the negativity starts coming. Can you fight through that? And that's important in this city. It's really important that you come out fighting because you know what? You're going to get booed no matter what. And you got to take that with a grain of salt. I always told Jim Bunning told me this once. He said he was a great pitcher too. I mean, I happened to just be coming up, and he said, when you get booed, just remember this: Philly fans boo what happened. If you popped up with the bases loaded, sure they were angry, but they booed the Phillies didn't score. And I tried to keep that in perspective. If you made an out with the bases loaded and they booed you, or you got thrown out, bang bang at first, and they booed because they didn't get it, I tried to keep that in the perspective that he told me. You know what? They want the Phillies to win as bad as you want to win. So a lot of guys take booing personal. I know when I got booed, I said, okay, I got to play harder. I got to make things happen. But you got to be able to deal with it because in this city, they're great fans and they support their athletes. And it's the greatest feeling in the world when things are going good. I mean, I still walk into places and, hey, I remember 80. I remember this. It's when you win here, they never forget. Believe me, they never forget. And I try to pass that message to our young kids down there. Hey, guys, you play this game the right way and you play hard. I'm not going to tell you you're not going to get booed, but you show that you're giving 100% every time you put that uniform on. These fans will love you before you retire. And that's what I try to tell these young kids.
I couldn't agree more. I always tell, and I come across a good amount of actual athletes now and all that, and they'll talk about the booing thing. And I said, no athlete should ever take it other than this. You got to get your stuff together. That's it. Like I gotta play better. I gotta work harder, whatever it might be. It's not necessarily an individualized, personalized boo. It's like you said. It's like it's not that it's you didn't do well. It's that the Phillies didn't do well in that particular instance. I think that's a great way to put it. And I've heard it spun back to me from ex-athletes saying, "Hey, man, Philly ain't for everybody."
I agree with that. It's not for everybody, and you can tell. And I don't want to use the word soft. You can tell guys that they, if you criticize, they don't take it the right way. They're very guarded. When we played, there were columns every day written. Oh, the Phillies stink. They're not doing what they're supposed to. Dallas Green jumped them. He had another clubhouse meeting. He ripped everybody in. It was out there in the open. Now it's probably more media, but it's more FaceTime and social media stuff. But you have to be able to deal with the negativity because it's going to happen. No matter what sport you play in, you're not going to go 162-0. You're not going to go 17-0 now with the Eagles. There are going to be games where you just plain stink. And I really believe, Mark, that, and I try to pass this down to our kids. When you have a bad game, don't try to make excuses. Some guy getting up at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning that's punching the clock. He doesn't want to hear an excuse. Just the best thing you can say is, I have to make that play. If they hit me that ball 99 out of 100 times, I'm going to make that play. I didn't make it tonight. I need to get better. But if you start making excuses, these people that work hard for a living, they don't want to hear that. You're getting paid big money to go out there and play. So just fess up. I had a bad game. I think sometimes fans like to see that, hey, I stunk tonight. When you admit to people, I didn't have a good game. There's 2 plays I should have made. I struck out twice with men on base. I think they can relate to you better as opposed to saying, well, the sun got in my eye. I couldn't make that play, or the ball hit a rock. It took it back. They don't want to hear that. And you know what? And as an athlete, I wouldn't want, if I was a fan, I wouldn't want to hear that either. Just be honest and say, I got to make that play, or I made a bad pitch there. The guy hit it in the seats. We lost 2-1. Hopefully I don't make that mistake again. I think if you're honest with the fans and you can look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, I got to make that play, I think you'll get along fine with the fans.
You referenced, and I think that's a great way to put it. You referenced social media. Who would have been the best teammate back in 1980 to have an Instagram account or a Twitter
Doug
account?
McGraw, not even close. Doug McGraw. I mean, he'd be blowing it up every night. I would have problems because I'd liable after a bad game start doing some stuff and wake up in the morning and go, did I say that? So, but Tug would do it every night, win, lose, or draw. I think he would be a great social media guy.
Okay.
We had a guy named Jay Johnstone, another guy that was very outspoken and funny and kept the clubhouse loose. He'd have been good. I don't think Schmitty would have been good. I don't think Bull would have been good. Lefty definitely wouldn't have been good. But there's a couple guys. There's a couple guys that would have been really good.
Oh man, Lefty, that would have been Steve Carlson. That wouldn't have been good for anybody. All right, now this might be a little bit more of a difficult question. How about 1993, being in that clubhouse with those guys?
Everybody, Crucky, maybe Dutch probably. Dutch was a great leader. There's no question about that. Mitch would have been out there. Lenny been off the charts.
Oof. He's off the charts now on Twitter.
Oh, we'd have had a bunch of guys off that team. That team, believe it or not, as a coach, I had great teams and I was with great teams, great managers. But as a coach, these guys, they were all towards the end of their career, most of them. Everybody said, oh, there's no way this team can win. You guys are too old. Everyone picked us for last place. But to watch that team every single day come and post up and play hard, I mean play hard every night. And then once the game's over, they'd sit around, have a couple beers in the clubhouse. You can't do that anymore because, obviously guys take it too far. But they would talk baseball 2 hours after the game was over. The guys would be sitting down with their uniform off, talking baseball. But they were fun to be around, and they brought it every night. And you know what? Everyone gets on Mitch for giving up the bomb to Joe Carter. If it wasn't for Mitch, we don't even get there. There's a great example, Mark, what we're talking about. He said, I made a bad pitch. To this day, he says it was a stupid pitch. I did a slide step. I shouldn't have done a slide step. But people respect that part of it.
And he was at his locker in the clubhouse after the game to answer the questions.
Every single question. And that had to be tough. There's no question that had to be tough.
No, absolutely. I have to ask you, when it comes to leadership, because you've certainly highlighted that a lot, I look at this team right now, and I see Rhys Hoskins as a guy a lot of people look to as a leader. Now that he's hurt, I know he's always been a leader when it comes to the front office. Sign JT, make sure we get this guy, make sure we get that guy. But Bryce Harper seems to have taken on even more of a leadership role since Rhys Hoskins has been on the IL. Have you been seeing the same thing, or am I just kind of making things up in my own mind?
No, you're not making things up. I think Rhys has definitely took that leadership role. I think JT has. We have a couple guys. Our shortstop, to me, Didi's a leader. Mark, the one thing guys get confused about, if you're a leader no matter if you're hitting 180 or 380. You don't become a leader because I'm hitting 300.
Right.
If you're going to be like Dutch, if you go look at Dutch's batting average, it wasn't that good, but he always was right there to answer questions, to get on guys if they didn't do what they were supposed to do. To me, that's a true leader. When you're not, anybody can be a leader when you're hitting 300. It's that guy that's not going good. He's 0 for 14, and he sees somebody not run. He goes up to him and says, hey, we don't play like that. We play this game hard. And I think that's important, but I think you're right. I think Harp has taken over that role, and I think JT has. In their own quiet way, Wheeler, he goes out there, man, and you can see the intensity when he gets on the mound. Those things are it's hard to say, I want you to be a leader. That's got to evolve, I think. And it starts down the minor leagues. You can see guys that you see take some leadership roles down there, but you don't start spring training and the manager goes up, you're the leader on this team. That's not how it works.
Right.
Know what the leader is.
They're what's the phrase? They're born. They're not coached.
Exactly. I believe that.
I as well. Anytime you try to force somebody as a leader, I don't think that ever works out. No, people see right through it. We do have a comment in here, and I want to remind people one more time that we do we're doing an autograph session as well as a Q&A, a virtual autograph session presented by Overtime Promotions, our friend Bobby Capone. We got about 20 baseballs left. You can PayPal Capone 1027 at Comcast.net, or Venmo at Bobby-Capone. $25 for an autograph, $30 for a personalized message along with that autograph on a baseball sign by Larry Bowa, so people can check that out. And I know we've been we've pushed a couple across already. People also have some comments that they want to address with you, Larry. Kyle's back with us. He says Philly wants their athletes to perform the way they perform every day in life. No one is going to hand us a bag full of gold. That's so true. We put our heads down and we give life all we have every day. We want our sports teams to go do that same type of thing. Just from one fan's perspective. I don't think you're wrong at all, Kyle. And I think that's why a guy that you had young, a guy like Chase Utley, resonated so much with this city. It was pedal to the metal every single day. It was Game 7 of the World Series every single day with that guy. When you look back on him coming up through the minor league system, guys like him, Jimmy Rollins and all that, those are guys that people will always look at. One for Jimmy when it comes to his just overall talent, and the other for Chase Utley for his talent and overall work ethic.
There's no question. The people are probably going to say, oh, really? Chase Utley was not a good fielder when he first came up, but he worked so hard. In fact, at one time, we moved him to third base in the minor leagues, and that didn't work out. But he worked so hard at second base. He became a very good second baseman. But you talk about a guy that wasn't rah-rah, but you would just look at him. Players would look at him and see hit a ground ball back to the pitcher. There was no 3 steps and veer off to the right. This guy ran hard. Now, Jimmy was a different personality. Jimmy had that little flair about him that he wasn't afraid to throw it out there. You talk about 2 guys with different personalities. Jimmy was out there and he wasn't afraid to, we're going to win, forget the Mets. Chase would never do that. He'd go out there and play the game, and people would look at him, even on the other team, and say, wow, that guy's here for one reason, that's to win. I mean, I remember when I was coaching the Dodgers, when obviously the Phillies beat us twice in the playoffs. We had a good team, but we went over the meetings playing them in the playoffs. I said, let me tell you guys something. If you're stealing second, do not go head first, because Chase will drop that knee on you in a minute. If you go in spikes first, I guarantee he's going to know who does that. But nobody would do it. And I don't know, maybe it was out of respect to Chase, but they kept going in, and you hit his leg and you're out. I mean, it was amazing. We actually had a meeting about that. And I said, I've been around this guy. He's dropping the knee on you, so you better go in with your feet first. But no, they kept doing it, and Chase kept dropping the tag and the knee, and that's how he played the game. But the other thing about Chase, if he break up a double play, and you were on the other team and you broke it up, what he would do is he'd pat you and say, hey, way to go. He liked to play the game that way. He wouldn't like right now the rules. And he was probably the reason they changed the rules.
Yeah.
But he would try to break up double plays. He would try
Right.
to run over a catcher. Those 2 rules now have changed the game of baseball. And I'm not saying it's bad or good. I see the general manager's viewpoint, the owners, they don't want their guys on the DL. But Chase, he didn't like playing like that. He wanted, if he's on first and there was a guy on third and there was a ground ball, he's going to break that play up to get the run in. That's how he was taught to play. And that part of the game has sort of been taken away. But I understand the ramifications of a great player like Utley, or a catcher like JT if he blew his knee out on a collision play at home. I understand that the owners and the general manager want them on the field. So that's why those rules were put in place.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost happy that this is the way it happened with I believe it was the Ruben Tejeda play at second base for the Mets. I was at a bar while that game was going on, and I just remember kind of glancing up on the TV, not really following what was happening, and I saw the play happen at second. And my first thought, without realizing it was Chase Utley, was good hard play. Good hard play. And I went back to my business, right? And then the next day, I saw all the Mets fans I knew just calling for Chase Utley's head. I was like, what happened? And then I said, I'm glad I could actually look at that objectively and not as a Phillies fan who loved Chase Utley. But I thought it was a good hard play that he made. And you're right. It led to the changes.
You know what about that play, Mark? If you go back and look at that play, that was not a double play ball. Once the shortstop or second baseman turns their back on the runner, he should have got the tag the bag and got out of the way. He had his back completely turned, then he turned around. So I agree. It was a good, clean play. But Tejada's got to know that's not a double play ball. And that's what happened there when he thought he could turn that double play. Once your back's to the runner and you try to pivot around, you're going to get blown up. And that's exactly what happened. But people, if you're a Met fan, you call it dirty. If you're a Philly fan or old school guys, not only just Philly fans, I've heard a lot of them tell me there was nothing wrong with that play. So whatever happened, happened. And, to this day, I'm sure Chase wouldn't like to go into what do they call it now, Citibank, wherever they play now, because he'd probably get booed. To this day,
City Field, yeah.
And I don't think it would bother him. I don't think it would bother him at all.
No, I mean, I think he has a famous quote at the All-Star game at Yankee Stadium: "Boo, bleep you," and that was pretty much what he said. So that's another mindset you can have.
Right.
So we're talking about some rules. I want to ask you about this. One, the designated hitter looks like that's definitely going to happen in the National League. Are you pro or con the DH, Larry Bowa?
Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I have been con against that, but the more I watch good pitchers square around a bunt, they have their fingers there, they get their finger broke, they're out 8 weeks. I seen them run to first, pull a hamstring. They're trying to score from second, sprain an ankle because they hit the bag wrong. For the sake of the game, I hate to say this.
Yeah, I'm with you.
It's probably better to have a DH, keep the pitchers, let them go throw 60 feet, 6 inches, go back to the dugout. Don't worry about picking up a bat. And I just think injuries are so prevalent when they get in the batter's box because they're not used to it. A lot of them don't hit after high school, because
Right.
DH are in college and everything. So I am now pro on the DH for both leagues.
Yeah, I think I'm exactly like I'm at a point where I just throw my hands up and I'm just like, well, there's only going to be one Babe Ruth or Shohei Ohtani every 100 years, so I guess that's it.
Exactly.
Or even Cliff Lee, who gave a damn about hitting.
Zach Wheeler swings the bat pretty good for us.
He does. He does.
He helps himself out, but for the most part, most pitchers. Well, Bumgarner's a pretty good hitter, but most pitchers, they're not real good hitters. A lot of them can handle the bat, but some of them I've seen them grip that bat, and their fingers are exposed. And boom, they get hit by a pitch and they're out. So I guess I'm pro now.
All right, now this is I'm gonna kick it up a notch as they say. Where would you be on digital balls and strike calls?
I'm con on that.
Okay.
You know why, Mark? Because when we played, I know back in the day, umpires basically established their strike zone the first time you hit. There was an umpire his name was Frank Pulley, who I thought was one of the best umpires in the National League. He had a tendency to call pitches down strikes. So you knew when the game started, that ball down, when you have 2 strikes, you better start swinging at it or put it in play. And the ball up, he would never call a strike. So we knew whoever was behind the plate, some guys would call the ball up strike, some guys wouldn't. And I think umpires are human. What they go through now is tough. Not only do they have to watch pitches, there's a lot of pitches thrown because guys are striking out, they're walking. So, between 2 teams, there's probably 300 pitches, close to 300. And they're getting scrutinized on not only during the game, but now after the game's over, they have the supervisor. They got to go in and watch the whole thing again. And, they're like everybody else. They're going to make mistakes. They're not going to be 100%. But I think with that, the robot umpire, whatever you want to call it, I just think I'd rather leave it in the hands of the umpire. And I know there's some games in the crucial situation, an umpire will ring somebody up and you go, oh, we need that guy. We get him out of there. He's a bad umpire. It happens. Stuff happens in baseball when you play 162 games. And as a player, you got to make the adjustments. I was always told, don't ever let the umpire put it in his hands when the count's 3-2. If you think a pitch is close, try to foul it off or something. Have a 2-strike approach. And I think if we would start doing that a little bit more, having a 2-strike approach, you'd see less strikeouts and guys putting ball in play. You'd be shocked at when you put a ball in play, what can happen. A guy make an error, throw it away, get a base hit. When you strike out, all you do is go right back to the dugout. There's nothing bad that can happen.
I like the sound of that. If I could, Larry, I want to ask you a couple of questions here about the pandemic. We all just have gone through and still going through this uncertain time that we're in. What's the best thing Larry Bowa watched non-baseball during the pandemic? Did you have a go-to show? Did you have something that you binged watched, if you will? Is there anything that you just kind of clung to throughout the pandemic?
You know what I did a lot of, Mark? I didn't watch a lot of TV then. I worked out a lot. I walked, I ran. I probably got in the best shape I've ever been in my life because I was outside. And, once you retire, you have a tendency to get heavy or something. Everyone said, God, what have you been doing? I said, I've been running, walking. But I used to go to those, put the video on of the World Series when we played. I put the '08 teams on I'm a sports freak. I love sports. I'll watch sports 24 hours a day if I had to. It doesn't matter what sport it is. Hockey. People ask me when you played, which I love watching the Broad Street Bullies. I loved it. I went across the street after Sunday games and watched the Broad Street Bullies play. I just love everybody that played on that team because they brought an intensity that I'd never seen before in a hockey uniform. Believe me.
Well, two things on that then, Larry. They needed a shortstop earlier in the season. The Phillies did. They had some injuries with Didi Gregorius. You're the best shape of your life. You go play shortstop.
I can probably tell. I don't know if it's been a long-term thing. Maybe one game, maybe. And then I'd have to be put on ice, and my muscles would be sore and everything. But it turned out okay. Didi's back now. He's playing a lot better baseball. And again, I know we're down right now. At least the last time I looked, we were down 3 runs. So.
3-0 right now, bottom of the fourth.
What is it?
3-0, bottom of the fourth inning in Milwaukee.
That's not that we can make up that the way we're swinging the bat. So we got to put it in gear right now.
I'm with you there. And then the second thing, I think it leaves my mind. I can't. I'm too excited about watching you play shortstop again. Oh, we put you on a pitch count essentially. We put you on a grip count at shortstop in case we ever need it again. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you about here. I know some kids might be watching this right now. They might watch it later, of course. What would you tell a young athlete that really wants to make the big leagues about today's game? What advice would you give a young athlete that's trying to make it?
The first thing I would say is don't let people tell you can't do something. If you really believe in yourself, don't let the analytic part of it cut your career or forget your goal. There's a place in baseball for everyone. A singles hitter, a guy that can hit home runs, a power pitcher, a guy that throws strikes with off-speed pitches. Don't let somebody cut your dreams short because one or two people say, you can't do this, you're too small. If you really believe and you're willing to work and sacrifice and give everything you have, do all that. And at the end of the day, if you don't make it, you look in the mirror and you say, you know what? I gave everything I had. I did it the way I wanted to do it. I wasn't good enough. But you'd be shocked at what can happen if you want something bad enough. Believe me, I went through that whole thing, not playing high school baseball, not getting drafted, people saying I was too small. There are ways to overcome all those negative thoughts. In fact, I tried to use that to pump me up. Oh, this guy said I'll never play here. I remember one article, Ralph Bernstein, who God rest his soul, he said Larry Bowa would have trouble hitting in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, which is where you play the Little League World Series. So when I was in the big leagues, he wrote that. And every time I would be going bad, I'd put that little article up and I'd say, okay, Ralph, we're going to see if I'm that bad. And it would sort of motivate me. Believe me, I just didn't let anybody tell me I can't do something.
Mm-hmm. No, use it as fuel. It just jumped up in my mind. If you'd entertain this curiosity, you mentioned loving the Flyers and all that. I've had the pleasure of interviewing the great Bernie Perrant a number of times. One of my favorite human beings ever, for let alone athlete, just favorite human beings. He said that every once in a while, Eagles, Phillies, Sixers, Flyers, every once in a while, you guys be at the same place at the same time. Sometimes it was planned, sometimes it wasn't. Any good moments hanging out with guys like the Flyers, for instance?
I'm telling you, we had a lot of times when we'd meet over in Jersey at a pub after their game. They play a 6:00 game. We'd play a day game. We'd meet over there and have a couple of beers. And at the time at the Vet, we shared in September a locker room. The Eagles were right across the hall. Jaworski and Vince Papale, all those guys, Montgomery, all those guys they would locker right next to us. And, we'd be coming in and they'd be leaving in September and we'd hang out. I ask guys now, do you guys ever hang out with like the football players? They don't do it. I don't understand why, but it's different now. There's no question, but we were a pretty close knit. I just saw Doug Collins at our alumni weekend. And I remember him coming over and watching us play. We go over and watch him play. I mean, it was one of those, we all wanted everyone to do well. And in 80, you might not remember this, but every single team got to the finals. That is very difficult to do. We were the only team to win it, but the Sixers were there, the Flyers were there, and the Eagles were there. And you get a city like Philadelphia or New York, whatever, and you get 4 teams that get to the finals, that's pretty successful year.
I would say so. Larry, this has been such an honor. And when Bobby Capone hit me up from Overtime Promotions and he said, "Hey, look," and I've done one other signing with him before, but when he hit me up and said, "Hey, I got somebody from the Phillies. I have Larry Bowa. Would you want to host the autograph signing?" I said, "What are you kidding me? Absolutely, I want to host that. To pick your brain for an hour, to have some fun and award some great fans, some autographs from you, autograph baseballs." It's just great to talk baseball with you in general, but for you to do this, to sign some autographs for fans as well, just is another testament to how great a guy you are, Larry. Seriously, it's been my great honor to have this conversation with you, host this Q&A and this autograph session. Thank you for doing this, my friend.
Well, I appreciate it. I know I've done a show with you before, and you do a great job. And again, to all the fans out there, keep the faith with the Phillies. This is going to go down to the last 3 or 4 ball games, so don't get down if we lose a game here or lose a game there. But we got to keep grinding it out. But again, thank you for having me, and continued success on your show.
Thank you so much. The great Larry Bowa here in conjunction with the Farzy Show by way of Overtime Promotions and Bobby Capone. Larry, thank you so much to everyone that wrote in, everyone that chimed in on the show and got an autograph as well. Thank you guys for joining us here in this live virtual autograph signing and Q&A with Phillies legend Larry Bowa. Thanks for watching. Thanks for chiming in. Larry, thanks again to you. Everyone, have a great rest of your evening. And, of course, let's go Phillies. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Take care. All right. Bye-bye.